What I'm about to share with you is a really simple shape which will get you playing blues solos all across the neck by the end of this video. And what makes it so effective is it's all based around chords, so as long as you know the chords, you're kind of guaranteed to sound great. We'll start off by looking at the basic pattern of the E and A shaped bar chords, then we'll blend them together and then finish up by finding some spicier notes to really take the blues up a level. So here we go. We'll be in the key of A, so here's an A major bar chord in the E shape at the 5th fret. We're going to zone in on just the top 3 strings from this chord. Now, possibly the most important concept for blues is blending minor and major together, and from this chord we can simply hammer on the G string from 5th to 6th frets, instantly creating a movement from A minor to A major. So that's going to be the first part of our pattern. 5 to 6 on the G string, C to C sharp, minor to major 3rd. And generally when I'm soloing I like to slide on this. Then on the top 2 strings we've got chord tones, the 5th of E and the root note of A. So those are clearly going to be great notes to work with, but we can also include the notes 2 frets up from each of those. So on the B string we've got the 5th fret, E and the 7th fret, F sharp, then on the high E string we've got the root note of A and then up 2 frets to a B. So our complete pattern will look like this: 5 to 6 on the G string, 5 and 7 on the B, and 5 and 7 on the high E. Now let's turn that into a lick. So I'm just working up through the pattern, 5 to 6 on the G, 5 to 7 on the B, and then a slide on the high E, up to 7, and then resolving back to the root note of A at the 5th fret. So that works perfectly over the A chord. You can hear that. But then when the music changes up to the 4 chord of D, we can simply move the whole pattern to now fit around the D chord. So here the pattern is going to look like this, starting at the 10th fret on the G string, with that slide up to the 11th, and then 10 and 12 on the B, 10 and 12 on the high E, and that same lick works perfectly over that D chord. Then once again, up to the 5 chord of E, we can just shift everything up again, and it works perfectly. So let's put this in context with the backing track, and you'll see we already have a solo. So now we've got the pattern down on the E-shaped bar chord, let's move it to the A-shaped bar chord, which will allow us to play lower. We'll start down here with this kind of open A-shaped bar chord at the 2nd fret, and now those exact same notes we're playing around the E-shaped chord, we can find down here around our A-shaped chord, but an octave lower. So starting at the 3rd fret on the A string, we've got our 1-step slide from C up to C sharp at the 4th, and then 2nd fret on the D string, an E, 4th fret, F sharp, and then 2nd fret on the G string, our root note of A, and then up to the 4th for a B. So it's exactly the same notes, but an octave lower. And we can play that same lick again. Like so. Now, the pattern looks slightly different down here just because of the way the guitar is tuned, and on the A string we can still make that slide on the first 2 notes if we choose, but also hammering on works really well down here. Then, when we move up to the 4 chord of D, we just need to think about how the pattern forms around this bar chord shape. And the way I like to think of this is, rather than the normal way that you play this chord, with this bar on the D, G and B strings being played with the 3rd finger, just imagine that this bar here is being played with the 1st finger in the same place. So we're shifting from here to here, and then that frees up these fingers to play our pattern. So now it's starting at the 8th fret on the A string, but that exact same pattern. So on the A chord, and then on the D chord, see I've shifted from here to here, and then on the E chord, that would start at the 7th fret here, so we make that shift into this kind of position, and there's our pattern again, and we can just keep playing that exact same lick on all those 3 chords like so. So once again, let's hear this with the backing track. So now for each chord we have the option to play higher or lower. So now it's time to start blending these options together. Now this time, let's start with our lick in the low position and then take it up to the higher position, like so. And you can really start to see we're moving across the neck now. And one little extra we can add in here is to play a double stop slide on the top 2 strings like this. So 5 and 5 on the B and high E strings together, slide up to 7 and back down to 5, sounds really great, makes it sound like you really know what you're doing. So low, high, and then up to D, and on the E, like that. So back to the track and see how we're really starting to cover a lot of the neck. Okay, so that's all the basics in place. Now it's time to take it up a level and find a darker, bluesier sound. Now wherever we play this pattern, we can also add in the note 1 fret higher on the upper 2 strings. So in the case of the A chord here, we can also add in the 8th fret on the B string, this note here, which is a G natural, a flat 7, a really important note in blues. And you can hear, as soon as I play it there, it really brings out the blues flavour. Then we can also add on the 8th fret on the high E as well, which gives us a minor 3rd of C natural, which is super dark. You hear that there. We can also bend up to these blue notes with a half step bend from the fret below, like so. One thing I really like to do is bend up to the blue note and then flick off it to the fret below. Sounds really great to me. Then we can also bend these blue notes themselves. So 8th fret on the B string, try bending it up a full step, which gets you to the root note there of A. A really important bend in blues. And then on the high E string, 8th fret, a little microtonal bend, not aiming for another note, but just adding blues flavour like that. Sounds really great, really bluesy. Now of course all this is in the higher E shape position here, but we can do all the same things down here in the A position by adding these 2 notes, 1 fret above, and doing exactly the same kind of tricks. Like so. So let's put these blue notes into action with the track. So now to close out the video, I've put together all these ideas into a full solo, and I hope you can see how powerful this pattern is, not just for helping us move around the neck, but for keeping us in place to hit the right notes over the right chords, and to help us bring in those darker, bluesier notes when we want to. So here's the solo.